think we keep in touch, and if you're about, and you know, if I need to speak to you on an urgent basis, I try not to abuse it, but there are occasions when I need to speak to you, and I need to speak to you.
Yeah, and I don't think you have abused it. I mean, I can't think of many. I can actually think one or two occasions where the problem was that we didn't speak, and so you know, I err on the side of preferring to know.
But
more,
I mean, Lin, how do you find it? You know, because does it leave you in a difficult position working with the leader of the opposition when I'm saying words to you that you would quite wish to share with everybody else and feel that you can't because I wouldn't be happy with it?
No, I think it's a basic element of all senior management jobs in local government that you can cope with working for all members whilst driving one set of members' agenda harder and faster than, if you like, than all of it, and it's not something I've ever felt uncomfortable with. I think there are some aspects to it that you never get quite right, and you know, one of those is that sometimes you make the wrong judgment. I mean, you and I have had a couple of serious issues where I have misjudged whether I was being told to communicate something on or not. In one I did and I shouldn't have, and in the other I didn't and I should have, apparently. And I've found you to be very fair when we've had those conversations, but they are indicative of the fact that I think even quite senior officers are having to make judgments all of the time, and you know, those two instances were quite important, because I think the consequence of the first one was actually probably to make me slightly more cautious than I am by nature. And then when we moved on to the second one more recently, you were kind of saying, well, I just assumed you know, why didn't you tell Chris about that? And I was saying, because you beat me around the head the last time I did. So there is an issue about constant learning, and that's the bit of me that goes back to saying, I think I'll only stay in local government as long as I'm prepared to take those risks, because the point when you feel so worried and cautious that you don't ever make the judgments is when you stop being effective. But what you do need is to feel that people will treat them as learning experiences and move on. And I felt lower about the incident you and I fell out about. It was perhaps useful just to say, because I think for the purposes of the training, it's about parish councils, a motion put forward by Sue onto the executive committee, which I encouraged the administration in dealing with on the day by way of an amendment. And I didn't see anything wrong with that, because I thought Sue was trying to get a message to government about parish councils, which you were in a way.
Indeed.
But you were trying to get a Tory message to them.
Yes, I was.
And the consequence of that was that Sue felt that I had let her down in terms of the role I'd played in something where you felt I'd been political with a big P.
Yes.
And we unpacked that, and I think ended up with an understanding that we applied to the future. But at the point when we were in the middle of it, I really thought I had lost your trust. And I don't mind being criticised. You can't do this job without being criticised. But I really minded getting to the point where I thought I'd lost your trust and confidence. And I felt really miserable about that, and actually very relieved when you and I got back to a point where you were still cross at me, but where we'd re-established a sense of reliance on our conversations with each other.
Well, there's no doubt that for a few days there I felt that you had let me down from a trust point of view. I was really concerned. I thought, can I work with this chief executive? I thought we could. I thought we had the right communication, and then suddenly I didn't. And
the consequence of that was that it affected the whole relationship.
Absolutely.
And so getting back to a point where you could accept I'd made one cock up as opposed to that I was unreliable was actually extremely important. I found it then quite funny when we did the other one, because on that one you put something down which was actually just not very well crafted. Right. And afterwards said to me, well, if it was badly crafted, why didn't you help me make it right? And I found myself saying, well, because I thought you'd tell me I was interfering with politics if I told you how to word that to make it acceptable to the admin, because for all, you know, it looked to me another classic one where you wanted it to be turned down so that you could keep the moral high ground. So it was really, it was a fascinating set of two issues for me in terms of just how complex managing these relationships is. But if you don't, as I say, there's really no point being here.
Well, I acknowledged when you pointed it out to me. I mean, I hadn't appreciated the way you said to me was, look, you know, you're saying this to me and previously you were saying, and I hadn't seen it like that. But once I did, I thought you were absolutely right, and I said that. I said,
absolutely.
Your point is well made, and I acknowledge that I didn't get it right the second time. I mean, I think
it's action learning. I think that's the technical team for this.
I think what we've got, and what is something officers don't always understand, is the politics of the situation. What I say in the chamber and the way we behave in the chamber is often quite different to
the way you behave privately.
Because I have to, as the leader of the opposition, point out what I perceive to be the shortcomings of the way this council is managed. And it can